So we are in Banbury Lane, Nethercote on this very blustery autumnal day to talk about local green space designation in Cherwell District Council's local plan that is currently being put together. So local green space, of course, we all know that access to green space is beneficial for our mental health as well as our physical health. In order to qualify as a local green space, there's several criteria, of which an area only needs to meet one. But we believe here in Banbury Lane that we meet several of the criteria, which include beauty, heritage, value to wildlife, recreation, and of course simply being able to let ordinary people have access to green space. So in terms of access to green space, you can see that a little walk along Banbury Lane in Nethercote affords us access to the countryside and things that we wouldn't see in the town, in the urban area, that quite quickly you can be out of the town and into the countryside and have access to the nature that it holds. In terms of heritage, everyone's heard of Banbury Cross, but not everyone is so familiar with Banbury cheese. And in the Middle Ages, Banbury was famous for its Banbury cheese. The cheese was sent to royalty and also mentioned by Shakespeare in one of his plays. The then hamlet of Grimsbury and Nethercote were fundamentally important, like what we would consider today a cottage industry in farming and producing the cheese. So these days we have Banbury Lane accessible from the nearby Banbury residents living in Grimsbury side of town. We have the workers in the nearby Chalker Way using the lane in their lunchtime, and of course in the other direction the lane is accessible to nearby Northampton villages of Warkworth, Overthorpe, Middleton Cheney, Chacombe potentially. Many using the lane for just a bit of time to themselves in nature. Some people walk their dogs, walk with their families. We see runners, cyclists, hikers. The Banbury Lane has a whole network of footpaths, public footpaths, some leading to other out of the area, such as those that cross over into Overthorpe and other areas of Northamptonshire, and some simply leading throughout the hamlet. You may have noticed as we're walking along the lane that both sides of the lane, which is in its entirety just under a mile long, we have hedgerows on both sides and plenty of trees. Now, this is really important for wildlife. Hedgerows are massively important. They provide connectivity, allowing the wildlife to travel between areas. Some wildlife will use the hedgerow for shelter and of course a source of food for much wildlife. In the 1940s, somewhere around this bend or stretch up until what was then the Red House, there was a bench, and on this bench is documented as a spot of international espionage. In the early 1940s, a German spy called Klaus regularly met with a Russian military intelligence agent, Ursula, from Great Jew, and they met on this bench in Nethercote and passed secret atomic research information between them. They're said to have met regularly on this stretch. So as we come further along Banbury Lane, we can see the more footpaths, more hedgerows, more green space that's really easy for people to access and really important to those who do. Regularly you can see people along the lane walking their dogs, walking with their families, just simply popping out in their break from work, enjoying the nature. Really important for our mental health. It really helps to have that break from our busy and stressful days, to be able to come somewhere where we can appreciate the nature, the wildlife, the heritage, or simply the place to have some time and access the green space. As you walk along Banbury Lane in Nethercote, you may notice that the fields adjacent to the lane, many still hold the ridge and furrow landform. So this is left over from historical methods of ploughing the fields and the ridge and furrow. This also shows that the land hasn't been disturbed for hundreds of years, because of course if the land had been dug up, the ridge and furrow would no longer be present. So we hope that you will agree that Banbury Lane in Nethercote is incredibly important green space, accessible to all and important. If you agree, then please respond to Cherwell District Council's local plan consultation by the 3rd of November. You can either complete the consultation questions or simply just email in the description of this video, or if you're seeing this video before Saturday's event, Saturday the 21st of October, we'll see planning officers in lot 29 from 11 till 3 o'clock. That's Saturday the 21st of October in lot 29, where officers will be available to talk to you about the local plan, and so you can mention to them and give them your feedback of how important and how valuable this local green space is for our district and for our community, and ask that they give it the designation. We have a 17th century listed farmhouse and adjacent to a deserted medieval village. So back in the medieval times, the what is now just a field with earthwork remains of the house platforms would have been workers supporting the farmhouse, and as times changed and people moved away, then the houses were abandoned, and today we can just see the remains. System requires good diversity of species. So in Banbury Lane, Nethercote, and the surrounding area of Nethercote, around about 900 different species have been recorded. So that is anything from plants, trees, to the wildlife, to the birds, to small mammals, to the mushrooms, to the lichens. Everything that basically is alive and contributes to the healthy ecosystems. This is the original Blacklocks Hill section of Banbury Lane. So before the M40 came through Banbury and was built in the late 1980s, this road carried straight on and onto the Middleton Road and into Banbury. For a long time it was the main route from Northampton to Banbury, at one point being a drove road for the cattle to be herded from Northampton to the cattle market. In more recent history, a turnpike road, and truncated now so that the M40 could come through Banbury. So of course today we're primarily talking about Banbury Lane in Nethercote and the reason why we feel this is worthy of local green space designation. But it's important too, if you live elsewhere in the Cherwell district, as well as supporting this designation, please also take some time to look around in your area and think if there are any green spaces that are valuable near to where you live. Because in the local plan, as it currently stands, the draft, there's lots of references to how important access to green space is for people living in the area, and it's also a key focus in Oxfordshire's local nature recovery strategy. But actually in the current review and the new local plan that's been designed, there are no areas being considered in Banbury for local green space designation. So if you know of another area, then you can also use the same email or the same methods to let the council know about that.